Everyone. So nice to be with you all guys for the next 1 or 2 hours, right? So that's will show you guys something which you guys might not have seen or may have seen. So let's hope this would benefit everybody. So let's get started, right? I mean, so let's just start with an overview, right, of myself, and then we'll kind of get it started, right? So basically, I'm Sanjay. I mean, as you guys know, so like I'm Sanjay Saravanan from a developer from Chennai. So I have a total of around 3 years of experience. So and I've been working as a software developer with Encora, which is based out of Ahmedabad, but currently I'm working remotely. So and then, so I've been working in React, Mongo, Python, Node.js for all these 3 years of my developer experience. So in that, this particular visualization is what something which I was doing in my moreover like first off of my experience. So that is something which I thought like wanted to share with you guys. So that is how we ended up having this webinar. So that is all about me, a developer with 3 years of experience from China. So that is it. So yeah. So now let's get started, right? So all about visualizing the data, right? So all about visualizing data. Okay. So basically, so when I say data, it's kind of going to be like in a way like I've just prepared a data for us, right? So it's going to be something similar. So this is an income and expense kind of a chart, okay? So income and expense kind of a chart where you have a column named expense, a column named month, and a column named type of the expense, maybe like this expense, a column named year, and a column named date, income, and all these income source and everything. So basically, this is kind of an Excel defined structure, right? You're going to have a column and then the row values, right? So let me clear the annotations. Clear just a second. Yeah. So this is how our data is going to be, but this is kind of boring, right? So this is kind of boring, and you're going to see like tables and rows, and you're not going to have uh, a grasp visualization of these data. So at a glance, if you want to get what is having higher and what is having lower, you can't do it. So that is when we have the visualization come into play. So visualization come into play, and that is for that we have created something like a small product where we'll be kind of able to feed in a Excel, or we can even do with CSV or JSON. But right now we can only do with Excel. So when you feed in Excel and then you kind of say some kind of a thing to it, and then we can visualize it. So let's see how it's done, right? So let's kind of quickly go to the slide view, right? Okay. So basically visualizing, so it kind of allows us to create a dashboard. So this is an application overview, what we're going to see, right? Excel to graphs. So using React, Mongo, and Python. So, and then the second thing. So overview is, so feeding an Excel into the application, and then kind of we tell the application something so that it kind of, I mean, information about the charts, information about the graphs, and then it kind of generates you a graph altogether, and then it gives us a view of the data, a certain view of the data that you desire to. So that is one. And then the tech stack, if you see, we have used React.js, MOI theme library, and then recharts. Recharts is what we are used for visualizing the data, basically. So visualizing data, we have used recharts. And then for backend, we have used Python and Fast API. So we'll describe those things. I mean, we'll see those things in a bit more brief. So and then database, we have used MongoDB. So database also used to store like the minimal amount of data. Okay, the minimal amount of data. So just a second. Yeah. Okay. So now we have the front end, right? The front end part. So when it comes to the front end part, the front end is all about going to be using the MOI theme and all the components that the MOI theme is about to provide. So when I say MOI, so when you become a React developer, and MOI is going to be a very huge library that supports only React, basically. So I mean, a very large, vast support to React, basically. So and it kind of provides you a lot of stuffs, basically. So like if we just do a search for autocomplete, I mean, it kind of develops a lot of component with it. So it generates buttons. It has buttons. You see, a normal HTML button would not look like this. So it's something very much related to Bootstrap, but Bootstrap also supports React, but this is also something which provides a vast set of theme, a customization option in this particular MOI theme is vast. So that's the reason we have used MOI for it. So you see the button, you see the checkbox, you see everything. You see the radio button, you see the floating icon action button. So kind of this is called fab, and you have avatar, batch, avatar, badge, and everything you'll have. So this is for MOI. This is all about MOI. So you have the alert, you have the backdrop in the sense if you do the backdrop, it will kind of show the backdrop, and you can also disable the clicking ability. So all these things comes by default. So you don't have to develop things on your own. So that is about MOI. So there is already a small set of components available. So if you want to develop a quick application, MOI with React, MOI is definitely a go-to theme library to use. So that is about MOI. So now let's get right. So now let's go back. And then graphs. So that is when recharts come into play. Okay. So we use recharts. So what is recharts? I mean, recharts, it's also a something similar to MOI. This is also a library. Okay. It is also a library which allows us to generate charts, which is also a largely React supported library to generate charts. So we just do an npm install and then we'll kind of get it out. So basically, this supports a lot of customization, as well as this also has a lot of readily available design and customization ability for us. So this is about line charts. There is a lot of different types of line charts that we can actually have. Line charts and dashed line charts and vertical line charts. These type of line charts we can do. So basically, you feed in a normalized data. You see, you feed in a normalized data. So you feed in the name, you feed in the value, and it kind of tries to produce a better visualization of this data. So that is how we do it. So basically, from the Excel that we get, we normalize the data to a particular format like this with the help of a library, and then we feed that to React, and then we generate it out. So that is second. Okay. So now let's get to the dashboard. Now let's get to the dashboard. Okay, dashboard is something which helps us to kind of customize your own dashboard with the help of I mean, with the help of laying out different types of components, and you can also edit it according to your view. You can drag and place the components in a different ways, and a lot of things you can do with it basically. So to put it together, I'm just going to show you guys an example on how it's very, very useful for us. Yeah, just a second. Yeah, I'm just going to show you guys an example of how we can produce dashboards. So this is also a library which helps us to do so. I'm just going to show you guys a code sandbox view of how it's really useful for us, right? So that way you guys will get idea on what is the dashboard can do basically. So we have this kind of a setup. You see, it's kind of like you have this view, like the same kind of a view. You're going to have it on a in a dashboard view. So what we're going to do, we're going to replace this ones and twos and change the design a bit. I've already done. So and then feed in the charts over here. So basically, if a chart want to be large and if a chart want to be on the left side, right side, you can customize on your own and you can do a lot of stuff from it with it. So that's all about the dashboard view, and this is possible with help of something called React Grid Layout. React Grid Layout, and this is also an NPM package which lets us to do these things with minimal amount of coding in place. So yeah, so with this we can do a large set of customization, doing the graphs and everything. All these things you can do basically. So not only graphs, you can also use it for something different. If you as we wish basically. So that is about the this thing. So the three things, right? Something. So we are, as I said, like we are using React.js. So React.js is something which is a front-end library, basically a JS library, which helps us to create very quick web designs and with minimal amount of re-render. So that is the whole concept of React.js, guys. Okay, so with minimal amount of re-render, okay, and faster re-render as well, right? Faster rendering as well. So the concept behind this is we don't refresh the page completely and make the web page load all the resources again and again and again. So instead, what we do, we restrict the pages to load only or change only the contents it does need to change. So that's when the Ajax calls come into play, where this is an asynchronous API call or any of that sort. It goes and then gets the data, and then it kind of does the trick for us without any disturbance. So that is one. And it's, of course, it's very, very easy to use. It also can be created into a reusable and reusable components, which can actually be uh, put into throughout across the application, basically. So when I say reusable, you can see a lot of stuff, right? I mean, when you take a web page, there can be a lot of stuff that this can be reusable. You see, this particular component is accepting this can be said as a component where it has a build and passing, and this color is green. So basically, you can have the a component which can accept the green, and then the first text and the second text, and something like that, right? So this can be it's going to be blue. So you can have a set of data to a particular component to be passed, and then you can do a reusable components which can be used across the page. So that is about doing reusable components with React. Okay, just yeah. So this is about React, and then this is about the Mental UI design, which I actually showed you guys already. And then, yeah, this is about recharts. So easy and deep customization, responsive. So that is one very important thing about recharts. It's actually very, very responsive. So there is a responsive wrapper. So that helps in terms of bringing out responsive, what we say, responsive charts. So that's good. And then interactive large set of charts. and then the backend. So now it all comes to the backend. So basically, so the front end, what we saw, it's all about the view that a particular person is going to get. When we feed in an Excel, he's going to get the data back, and then he's going to display it. That is fine. But the main kind of a brain kind of a thing for this entire application is Python. So he's the one who takes in the Excel file, read it throughout, and then kind of pass it in a way that is feasible for charts, and keep it within itself as of now, and then it will keep it itself. And then whenever the UI asks for it, whenever the React system asks for it, it will go fetch the data, and then give it to the front end, so that the front end recharts is able to create charts out of it. So that is one. So whatever I said, right, it's done on Python code with the help of pandas. So what pandas does, it takes in a huge set of data, and then it will be able to convert it into data sets immediately. So we saw the chart, we saw that these things, right? It can convert these things into a JSON format or any format within seconds. Even 700,000 data, it can convert in seconds. So if it's more data, it will take some time. That time we need to put it as a separate process or a cron job kind of a thing. So that's how pandas works. Okay. So that is one. So pandas will be able to convert into a data set. That is cool. Okay. So, but we need some kind of a mechanism to communicate basically. So Python is able to create data sets out of Excel sheets. That is also cool. That is fine. But we need to transfer this data sets to the front end, right? So that is when API comes into play. And there is a package called Fast API. It's in Python. So it's actually really fast. So it's a web framework which kind of sets up a ASG for you. I mean, gateway service, gateway interface, which kind of sets up an HTTP server for you, and then lets you to communicate between the actual Python application or the DB with the front end application. So I'll show you guys on how it kind of looks and everything in a minute. So yeah. So maybe it also has a Swagger documentation, guys. So it also has a Swagger documentation of what are all the APIs that is available. So basically, if we go to my local this thing /docs, so it runs on the port 8000, and if you say /docs, it kind of renders you the entire API sets. So basically, so this is how it is done. So you create APIs, and then it automatically generates a Swagger documentation for you. So where you can actually see and try out your APIs and validate your APIs on your own without using front end. Okay, so that is about Fast API. Okay, I'll show you guys the gist of it and working of it in some time. So yeah, and then MongoDB. So when you have to work with data or something which has to be very quick, you can go with MongoDB. So you have to, if you have to develop a quick application, MongoDB can be your savior, because it is actually faster, and you don't have to worry about making your database structure. So it's basically NoSQL. It has no structure, but you can define a schema. Schema means when you're trying to insert something data into it, you kind of have to frame it out in a particular way. I mean, say for example, if you are inserting a student data should have ID, name, phone number, marks, or something like that, right? So those kind of a setup. So that is optional actually. So optional in terms of MongoDB, but we can make it mandatory as well. So that is helpful, and it kind of stores everything in a JSON-like structure, JSON-like documents. So it kind of easily helps us to do the JSON transfer, right? So API kind of uses JSON to transfer the data. And MongoDB also stores each and every record of yours in JSON-like structure. So that is also one good thing about using MongoDB. So we can also have faster reading and writing operations. So that is also cool. Okay. So now getting into the application, right? So now let's get into the application. So basically the step one, okay, here we have the application. So if you land on the application, it'll kind of be an empty page because we don't have any kind of charts or any kind of reports in the system. So we have to do those things, and then only we'll be able to add all the things. Okay. So I'll just quickly go through you guys these things, and then we'll show you how the application actually works real quick. Okay. So now let's show you guys. I mean, let me walk you through the slide and say how the application actually works. Okay. So basically, first you need to pass in the reports, basically Excels, to the application. So which tries to communicate it to the backend, and then kind of creates it as a data set. Okay. So basically, reports are the information from the Excel sheet uploaded. Basically, that's the thing. And the reports contains the details of the columns, names, everything. Also creates a complete data sets from rows of the Excel to generate an interactive database. Basically, I'll show you guys this step. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to go to reports. So where we have the report. Now what you can do is actually you can generate a report. Okay. A report in the sense feeding in an Excel sheet. That's about a report. Okay, feeding in an Excel sheet is the report. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try feeding in this particular Excel data. Okay, this Excel data. So what I'm just going to say, income expense report. Income expense report. I'm just going to choose the file. So it's under this one. So I'm just going to say income expense. And then I'm just going to say like a report to track down expenses and income. Income. Okay. And then I'm just going to types. I just have like few types: education, expense, sales, businesses. So basically, how these types come into play. Basically, this we are trying to track an expense or an income, right? Which this is something to do with the money. So that is called as expense. But in case if you have something like education and you want to track your marks accordingly, so how you performed in semester one, how you performed in semester two, that you can say education. And if you have something like sales report, you can have it like sales report. So how you sold in the first quarter of a year, how you sold in the second quarter. So those kind of things. So that also comes under business and others. So since it is an expense, I'm just choosing a type of expense. So this is to just to show you guys what kind of report it is in that particular panel. So yeah, you click on generate and it has generated a report. Okay, it has generated a report. Now let's visualize the data in our DB basically. So this is the MongoDB interface called RoboT3, where you can actually test out all your, see your DB, see your DB. Okay, you can actually see your DB. Okay, so now we have created it. We have just created the instance export report. Now, if you see, it has created two things called as one is object fields, month, type, date, and everything. So which is on data fields, expense, date value, year, income. So basically these means this is a data in the sense the actual numeric data or something, a float data or those kind of stuff is called as data fields. And then if you see the object fields, these are the string values or the column names. These are the string values or the column names. So we have just separated it out. And then if you see the fields, this will give you everything. This means the column names itself. These two are also column names, but these are splitted out column names. These are the string column name. If you take month, month is a string. And then if you take type, type is a string, right? Those are all separated. So those are all called as objects fields, and these are all called as data fields. So data fields are the a numeric entity basically. So that's how it's differentiated. So right. So these details we have it, and we stored it as a new document in the MongoDB. Okay, and we also have it tagged to a column collection name called income expense report. So what we are doing, whatever the detail that we got from Excel, we are trying to store it into a new collection. So basically, one Excel sheet, one new collection. One Excel sheet, one new collection. So basically, whatever the data that you feed into the Excel, it will be creating a new entity for you. It almost like it has 146 records, and this particular collection will also have 146 records. You see 145, right? It also has the 146 data. So it will create all the data, and it will pull in and create all the data into your chart as well. As of now, this is how it's been structured, but we can also make it to serve this particular file and bring it from there. So right now we are just inserting everything into the DB, but in the roadmap, we are also going to do something like getting it served from a server and then manually loading whenever it's needed, something like that. So instead of storing all the data into a DB, which might be costlier sometimes. So that is one. Okay. So now we have feed it in a data. So now we have feed it in the data. Okay. So now we have to utilize that data. Utilize the data and then create charts out of it. Right. So now we are going to go to charts section where you can actually add new charts. Okay. When you click on add new charts, it's going to pop you up with a dialog where you need to select the particular report. You need to just select the particular report and then click on next, and what kind of chart you need to develop. Okay. So those details you need to get it from here. You see, we have expense, right? And we have month, all those things, right? We have expense, month, and all those things. Let's create a pie chart which states expenses on. Basically, I'm just going to create a pie chart which segregates the expenses into different types: medical, education, food, vehicle, entertainment, all these things. Okay. So how it's done. So basically, I'm going to create a pie chart which kind of segregates your expense based on the type. Okay. I'm just going to create that. Okay. Now you choose a report, and then next, where you choose the type of the chart you want to create, pie, and then choose next. So for pie chart, this is going to be the ask. This is going to be the fields that you want to feed into the application. Okay, for pie chart. So basically the chart name. Okay, you can just say expenses on. Okay, expenses on, or expenses across types, maybe something like that. Okay, and then you can just say pie chart representation of expenses across different areas. Expenses across different areas. Different areas. Okay, and then you're going to choose the data. Data in the sense it's going to be the expense, the data column that you want to visualize, and then the legend is the one which is a string value, which is the type, medical, education, and all those things. So and then you're going to choose an type. Okay, type. And then this average, right? This average is kind of like So when you kind of group the data, so basically when you say expense on medical, you have one record over here and one more record over here and one more record over here. So how you want to take it out? So medical, medical, medical. You want to sum all the medical and show it into the graph, or you want to average everything. So it will kind of take out how many medical data and then sum it up and then gonna just average it up or mean it up basically. So here we are gonna say sum. So by default it will be average. So we can just say sum and then click on generate chart. So once you do this, you have already created a chart. So now you can visualize it. Okay. So now once you do visualize, you see in education, you have spent like 36,000. And in entertainment, you have spent like 39,000. And in food, you have spent like 34,000. So this is across. I mean, you see, I nearly have like 150 data, right? Across years, basically. There is a span of 3 years where I've just created a sample data. It's all random, okay? It's all random. It's not real data. It's all random data I've just created, and we are able to visualize it across different types: education, entertainment, food, and medical. We are able to visualize it across. So this is how the chart gets created. So I'll walk you through, guys, in the back end how it's done. So in the later phase, now let's see the overview of what is the application is actually doing. And then in the later part, like we'll kind of touch base upon how the code is being structured, what exactly the pandas is doing, and then all those things I'll let you guys know. Okay, so that is one. Okay, so okay, so now we have just added a one chart. Okay, so similar to this, we can add several types of charts. So now let's go ahead and then see the income across years. Basically, there is type like 20, 21, 22. So let's see the income across years, right? So let's put a line chart or bar chart maybe. So when you go with year, bar chart may be a best option. So when you do a bar, like when you do a bar, when you select a bar, the bar chart fields will be something like this. Okay, so you need to feed these details for a bar chart. I mean, these are will be kind of same, these two, name and description, but you need to select the horizontal axis in terms of bar chart or a line chart, because horizontal axis is the x-axis basically, the horizontal axis, and then you will have the number of bars you want to show. So like we'll add one bar as of now, and then I'll also show you how to differentiate the expenses and the income on a different type of way. Okay, so now let's just say maybe I'll add two bars. Okay, so maybe let's see expenses and income over years. Over years, okay. Bar chart depiction of expenses and income over years. So it is going to be years, right? So I'm just going to choose the type year as the horizontal axis. So now I have to add the bars. Okay. So now the first bar is going to be expense. I'll just keep the color as red since it is an expense, right? I'll just keep the color as red. And then I'm just going to create an income chart. So now I'll just keep it as green. Okay. You can just choose the color or edit the color if you know the hex code. So yeah, I've just typed in the green hex code and I'm just adding it. So basically we have created two bars. Okay. So if you stack the bar one by one will be stacked up. So I'm not going to stack the bar. So let this be as such. Okay. So I'm just going to say generate chart. Okay. This particular chart is also created. It's actually very fast. So that's why we don't see any kind of lag in creating the chart. Okay. And you see the charts are created. And if you go to our database, if you refresh it, it has created two data. You see, it has created two new data. One is chart for pie chart, a type pie, and it also created something called type bar chart with bar data. You see, and this is what has been populated over here. You see? And if I inspect it and then go to network, when I refresh the screen, it gives a call called charts, and it gives us two data, and those are the tools which being displayed over here. Okay, so these things, and then when I give a call to the backend API, when I say view, it will give one more API call, which is data, which will fetch the data and it will present us in a format for us. Okay, so this is one more thing. Okay, this is one more thing. So like this, we can create multiple charts and then feed them. So like, let me create quickly create one more chart, right? So let us create a line chart to see the expenses over years, totally, right? Over like 600 days of expenses. Maybe I'll just say 12. Okay. Line chart depiction of expenses till now. So I'm just going to choose the date, because we are based on dates, right? Basically, each individual data is based on date. Date is kind of the unique value that we are doing over here, right? So I'm just going to choose date, and then I'm just going to choose expense. I'm just going to keep the same red color and then click on add. So it's going to add a new line, and then you can say average or sum, because everything is individual data. So even though you do average, it's going to be the same data, because for one day we have only one entry. So yeah. So and then I'll just say create generate chart. So it is also going to be so quick. And then when I view the chart, you see. So this is how it looks. You see, this is how it looks. Okay, cool. So now this is how we create charts. Okay, now this is how we create charts. And now charts are done. You can actually view the charts and see how it's looking on each of the set of charts are looking. This you can do over here. So this is about individual charts visualization. Basically, if you have to kind of click on each of the chart and then see how it is exactly looking and everything. So we can also provide a dashboard. Basically, that's why we didn't utilize this particular charts area, to see how things are looking. Okay, this particular charts area to see how things are looking, basically. So how the charts are and how the charts are looking. Is it rendering properly, or is there any other problem? So like that we can see, and then delete the chart and recreate the charts. Those operations we can do. So now let's get to dashboard. Okay, so now dashboard is not going to have any charts because we haven't added any. So now if we click on the add, and then if you see, it is showing us all the three charts that we have created. So you see, this shows expenses on, expenses and income over years, expenses throughout. So if you go to dashboard and then click on add, this will also show the same thing: expenses on, expenses and income over years, expenses throughout. So you can add a single chart like this. It will add that particular chart. Also, you can add multiple charts like this, multiple charts gets added over here. Okay, so now what you can do, it's in edit mode. So now the complete dashboard is in edit mode. So now what you can do is, you can either delete or remove a chart, and then you can also add one more chart. It gets added in the bottom. So and then now you can drag it and then align it to your own desire, basically. So you can keep it the way you want it to be. So you can just drag it. So you see this icon, right? You can just drag it along, and then you can't go beyond this minimum. So I've just set the minimum width and height to be this. So you can go beyond this. So we'll see how it's actually done in a bit. So yeah. So you see these things are there. And then this is the line chart that we generated for the expenses throughout, starting from 2020 0101 to 2025 this month 5. So sample data, all random data that I've created. So now you click on save, right? Now you click on save, and now whenever you land on to this particular website afterwards, right? Afterwards, you will be seeing this chart by default. You see, you will be able to see this chart by default. And the recharts kind of works differently based on the resolution of the screen. So basically what we are in is a laptop resolution. So in terms of if you go like a bigger resolution, you need to kind of configure again or customize the dashboard again for that. I'll also tell how to do that. So, and we are also working on how to sync every dashboard layout instead of going with like a single dashboard layout. So yeah, so this is how you can create your own custom dashboard kind of a layout. Okay, the custom dashboard kind of a layout. So now let's see the important backend operation, right? So maybe like in terms of Python. So how it's kind of taking in the data and how it's kind of exactly converting it into a readable form of data, and then it's creating a lot of data in the DB basically. So let's see how that works, right? And it is really fast that it can actually create even 700 data in seconds. It's not even seconds, in milliseconds. So let me show you the logic, and then show you guys the logic, and then let's see how it's kind of done. Okay, so now we are showing the backend code basis. So backend code base. Okay, so now you can see it's a typical model view controller kind of a thing. Okay, so where you have a service, this is where all the business logic is going to sit, and then where you have a schema, this is where you're going to write all the schema for the reports that you generate. Report means we are uploading a what we say file for the report, and then we are also doing something like name of the report and description of the report. And then when it comes to chart, we have something called the type of the chart, and based on the type of the chart, there is going to be different types of things. Maybe let us see this, right? Yeah. So when you say a general chart, these are the things. So basically, it takes a name. It takes what is the report. Basically, when a particular chart has to find the data from somewhere, right? So that is where you feed in the report ID. So that is when report ID will be there, and it will go out and then fetch the particular report's data and then kind of generate the chart. So that is for report ID, and then description type of the chart, which can either be like right now it's going to be pie chart, line chart, and then bar chart. So we can also extensively do it for area chart, bubble chart, all those things. So we just need to kind of frame a particular logic in terms of the front end as well as in terms of the back end to kind of visualize it in a format that we love to. So that's something which has to be done. Yeah. So now then when you take a line bar, these are the data. So ID, what is the data field? What is the data field? When I say data field, it's going to be the x-axis or something like that, maybe. No. This is the line or bar, basically. It's going to be for both. So it takes an ID as well as the data field, which is an string value, and then it's going to be the color, right? Color. So basically, when I say line or bar, it indicates this bar. Okay. What this bar has? This bar has a data field of year. The year, right? Year. And then this yellow color bar, I mean red color bar, has a data field of year, which is 2020. And then it is also sorry, it's not a data field of year, it's the data field of expense. Red color bar is the expense and the green color bar is the income. So that is the data field is going to be there. So basically this is going to be the string that is over here, income. This is going to be the income, and the color is going to be the color that we feed in. The color is going to be the color that we feed in, right? So the color that we feed in. And then, so this is a structure. This is going to be an array, right? So this is going to be an array. If you go to charts and then click on next, if you just pass next and then click on bar and then next. So this is where you choose the data, right? This data, this color, and this thing is going to correlate with this guy. An ID is something auto-generated by the UI itself. It will generate an auto-generated ID for one particular bar or one particular line that you add, basically. So that is how it's generated. And then this will be passed on to this. So basically, we have the bars or the lines ready, and across what we have to show it. So that is what the x-axis comes into play. And this will be the year in this case. And this will be the year in this case, basically. 2022, 2022, 2021. So this will be the year in our case. So, and then the line chart comes into play where we just feed in the color. Basically, what it's going to be like, this is kind of a combination of all the things, basically. So in Python, there is a concept called inheritance. So what I'm doing is like, I'm creating a central model, which is going to be inherited by line data. And line data utilizing the model that I've created for bar lines. Okay, lines. And this line data is inherited by one more thing called line chart. So when you see the structure for a line chart, let's go to the fast API, right? So this is where you can create a line chart. When you see the complete schema for the line chart, this is how it's going. You see, name, report ID, description, type, access, lines, accumulator. Accumulator is the one which we selected over here, right? So the average or sum, right, that we talked about. So that is going to be the accumulator. Accumulator will either be average or sum. So I'm also trying to introduce one more field called linear, which doesn't do anything for the field. It will just display as it is. So that is one thing. Yeah. Okay. So now let's get to similarly the pie chart data. So pie, let's see how the pie data looks, right, in fast API. Let's see how the pie chart data looks in the fast API. You see, pie chart data doesn't accept anything like lines or something like that. It is just need a data and something like legend, basically. If you watch in our application, it just needs a data and how it has to be shown across what, basically, right? These are types of the expenses. So that thing it needs, and that's what is called as show by. And how you want to accumulate it out. So there can be n number of entities for education and n number of entries for entertainment. How you want to accumulate all those things. So those are also the things. Yeah. So these things. Okay. So now how we want to accumulate all those things out. So this is how we structure the everything. This is how we structure the model, basically schema for everything. So this is about schema, and then this schema is going to be utilized by the controller. So controller is where we utilize the fast API. So let me show you guys how fast API is being structured, right? So fast API is a simple object where you just create something called app, a variable, and then you just initialize it. And this can be run as a server, basically. And this can be run as a server. How it's done? Basically, you need to do something like this. UVCon main app reload. So this is how you start a fast API. So what it usually does is like, we have the code base and you tell the UVCon to go to main.py, and then start app object. And then if you say reload, if any changes, it will kind of reload the entire services, and then it tries to load it out. Okay, tries to load it out. And this is the logs that we see for fast API. Till now, whatever the logs that we made, right? These are all the logs for that fast API. Okay, so that is one. Okay, so that is how you create a fast API object. Okay, so that is all fine. That is not a problem. Okay, now you can include routers on top of it. If you guys aware of the API concept, we can actually create different set of APIs. If you see, if you see, this is user API. If it's an user slash login, so this is user API, and this is reports. Slash reports is for getting, slash reports is for putting an entity, putting a report. Delete is for deleting a report. So this structure we need to create. So that's when we use controllers. So what we do, we use each and individual file for individual entities. When I say entities, it means either user or a report or a chart, right? So based on the entities, we create charts.py, and we write all the configurations and everything needed for charts, where we utilize the API router of fast API and create a prefix for it, charts, and tag it the name as charts. Okay, and then you do some few operations which will actually try to map a particular route. So if it's slash user slash login, and then if it's a post call, it will come down there. If it sees this is already users, and this is slash login, and this is a post call. So this is a post call. So if you execute this method, this particular function, users.login user, it is under service. Basically, you see this particular function, this particular set of codes gets executed if you run slash user slash login with a post API method. Okay, so this is what the fast API does with Python. Okay, so this is how the routes are being mapped. And very similarly, if you hit a get slash get reports, it will go to reports, and it will get for search for get, and then it will try to match it with the path. So you have slash reports already there, prefix, and this matches and returns all the reports dot get all. So basically what this get all does, let's see how it does. Okay, what it does basically. So it goes, tries to fetch the data out of the DB. So this is a connection that we made with DB in a typical way. I'll also show you how it's done. So, okay, self.collection will try to fetch the collection which is feeded into the DB. So it is reports. Now what it will do, it will try to find a collection named as reports in small cases, a collection named as reports, and it will try to fetch all the details of the reports. Even now we have only one record, even though if it's multiple record, it will fetch those things, and then it will fetch them. We'll discuss in terms what is find and what is find one, all these things, how MongoDB is useful and easy to understand kind of thing. We'll discuss in some time. Yeah. So this is structured. And how the self.collection works, it works with the help of base. We have written something called service base, where this service base will take care of all the things. You see, self.collection will point to the dbutil.get collection of self.name, where we are creating this name into something called snake base. Basically, what we are doing, we are getting the class name. We are getting the class name of this reports and then converting it into a case that which can be feeded as a collection name into the MongoDB. Okay, so that we are doing. So that we are doing, and then we are feeding it, and then it's kind of works that way. Okay, so this is how an API, basically an API that we hit from the UI, works with this, and it is also responsive. Yeah, so that we hit from UI, we refresh it, what happens? It basically goes to charts. I mean, this also gets the charts details. If you see the URL /charts, so it takes the charts and it will kind of it won't go here. It would directly go there. It is the charts and it will kind of try to execute this method. So it will come down and then it will go to charts and it will try to see the get method and then /charts, prefixes /charts, and it will try to execute the method /charts. So it will go to the /charts and it will try to execute this. You see, try and then this thing. This is how it kind of fetches the details with the help of Python. Okay, with the help of Python. So that is all fine. I've just I've just said how fast API works. Now let's get to the important part and then we'll move on. So now let's get to how reports are being converted, how the feeded Excel sheet is converted into this particular form, right? That we'll see. Okay. So now we'll also keep the UI ready to feed um, a report. Okay. Now we'll also keep the UI ready to feed a report. Let's go to report section. Let's try to feed in a report. I'm just going to say finance report, financial sample, which has how much data? You see, which has 700 data. Okay, which has 700 data inside it. Okay, I'm going to try feeding this and see how fast it is behaving. Okay, I'm going to choose it. I'm going to choose the financial data. I'm going to just say report to track finance, something like that, something. And you can just say business or sales, anything is fine, business. Okay, I'm not done, so it will make a quick API call. But before that, I'm just going to try explaining the details on how it works. Okay, so now if you hit this API, let us hit this API now. Let us hit this API. Okay, network. Let us hit this API. If I hit this API, you see, it has already gave me the result in seconds. And how much time it took? 700 milliseconds. And how much time it took? 700 milliseconds to insert 700 records, basically. Okay, so it is done within 700 milliseconds. So now it's doing /reports. Now we'll go back and then we'll go to reports, and it is doing with /reports. And what is the API method? Post. So we will search for post, and this is the /reports, and it will get the file, it will get the name, it will get the description, it will get the type, and it will kind of try to read the contents of the particular file. And then this particular contents is being fed into something called file to data frame. And this file to data frame is the object that is over here. So file to data frame. I mean, data frame is a keyword in pandas where we try to feed in the data. So what it does, we have fed the file, contents of the file. It tries to read that particular content and tries to create a data frame out of it. A data frame is a very huge entity. It can either be as huge as the Excel sheet. Basically, it is also creating a data. So you might have seen this thing, right? You see, you guys have seen this, right? Similarly, something might have created like there. So you see, this is called as data frame. You see, segment, country, it will create a table on its own. The pandas will create a table on its own. So now what we are going to do is we are going to split there. I mean, you see, object fields, we are going to create object fields, list of data types of column. We're taking all the columns. And then for data fields, whatever which is float object or integer object, we're taking those as a data fields. And rest all things, we are considering it as a normal object fields. That's it. So you see object and normal object fields. Okay. And then what we are doing, we are taking it and then we are creating a new collection. And you should also see, by the way, a new collection should have already been created called finance underscore, basically. Okay, called finance underscore. So now this finance will create 700 records. You see, 700 records in few milliseconds. So that is how fast this pandas read Excel, pt.read Excel, and all these operations are. Even it's written into DB. So you see, we have taken the data and created something called DF, and then what we are doing, we have manipulated something to get the object fields and data fields as we saw initially, and then we are creating the collection name over at line number 68, and then we are creating the collection data. So where we convert all the data sets into a writable entity for MongoDB, and then we are inserting those things. This is creating a collection, and then we are inserting those details into the collection, data. So once the insert is done, we just say the return object and we just throw it back to the UI, and UI kind of adds one more report into its entity. You see? So this is how the data manipulation happens. And this is how we create a large set of data in seconds and keep it ready to be served whenever the UI asks for it, and then create the chart, basically. So if you click on view, it will give a call, which is actually going back. Let's see the API call, and then we'll pass it on to the other team to give you an overview, and then we'll wrap with a question answer session. Okay. So if I say view, there is a data call that is being given. It says start/bar chats data. Okay, /bar chats data. So if you see the same thing, charts/bar chats/data. So this is the path, and it is a post call. So now it will come back, and then it will go to charts, and it will see bar/data, the bar/data, and it will go ahead into the bar data. And this is what is the function that we do. What we are doing, we are just saying what is the query that we need to call, and then what is the how we are going to use that query. You see db.get collection of the collection name, and then we are saying find, and then we are passing the query, and then this gives us the entire data. We are again converting into a data frame, and then passing some of the data. I told you about the group by average or group by sum, right? So that operation will happen over here. It will group it basically based on the access, and then this is where it happens mean or sum. If it is a mean, I'm just rounding it to 2 decimal places, and then returning the data to the chart, returning the data back to the UI, and it creates a chart. So this is how we create chart, basically. So you see, this is where we create chart, we upload some particular data, and how it's kind of creating a new, a data set which is feasible to create charts instantly. So this is how it happens. I hope you guys got in bits and pieces, at least in bits and pieces. So let's see. Let me share my screen. So hope you guys can see my screen. Yeah. So now we'll go for the question and answer. So any questions, guys? Basically, I till one particular thing is pending from me, my side, which is to showing you guys on how we actually create charts using data. So what is the structure that I have followed? So things like that. So I'll open up for question and answers. So okay. Okay, maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll try to cover the part and then maybe come back at last. Okay, so now let me show you guys how the code for the front end is being structured, right? And um, again, it's a typical React JS setup. So it's a React JS setup that we are trying to the entire React JS setup that we have followed. So basically, when you do an npm create React app, whatever the structure that comes up, that we have used. This would be public, this would be the src, and this, since this is a React application, this is the default template that comes up within. So that is one. And inside it, we have followed the component based structure, where we have a component and then pages. So this pages indicates how many pages that we have in the application. So we have one thing called home, and we have the other thing called charts. So charts go with this particular page, and then we have uh, reports. Reports is what goes with this particular page, the reports. And then we also have the layout. Layout is what is the complete setup, like, so this says app bar, right? This app bar is nothing but this one. So this layout stays as such for all the pages, irrespective of whatever the pages we are in, right? So this layout helps us to keep this intact and change only the contents of this. So with the help of newly introduced React Router DOM, we will be able to do it. Like there is a concept of outletting. So from a particular set of path, we can outlet different types of components. So that is how it is happening. So if you see, we are importing the outlet from React Router DOM, and then we are structuring the app header. So these are all the headers which will have the toolbar with a menu icon under a text called dashboard. This is what you see, right? Dashboard, menu icon, text called dashboard, and then a account icon, right? This is account icon comes here, account circle icon. You see? So this is structured, and then comes the drawer. So this is what is the drawer, which has the dashboard, charts, and everything, right? So that comes up over here. It says drawer, and then it will have the icon, and it will have the buttons, and then it will have the list items. So now we have, what we have done, we have segregated this particular component into a different area. So this is called as list component. And now this is where we have listed down all the, you see, label and the path for it. Dashboard has a path of slash, and reports has a path of slash reports, and the icon. This is the topic outline icon. This is this one, topic outline icon. Right. This is how the header is being rendered out. Okay. So now if we go a bit more deeper into the pages. So say for example, let's go to reports page, right? So for example, if you go to reports page is structured as this kind of structure, like where we are using a card. This is a card component from my, where we have structured it, and we also have a default add new report button. Okay. So now here we have the reports.jsx. Now you see, if there is a reports data, we are trying to iterate it through and then create custom cards. Okay, create custom cards. And by default, at the end, we are putting the add card. So the custom card will take in the add card. So custom card is a component which will accept several set of images. You see, this will also go for the cards that we have for charts, and this will also go for the cards that we have for reports. So both the things we have written a one single reusable component, which takes in a lot of parameters like card name, card description, type, action, click, click, handle, click to open, handle, delete, handle, view chart, image type, and card data. So based on this image type, these images will change. You see, these images will change basically. So if it's income exposed report is a what we choose as the expense as the um, report type, right? Report type. So when it sees expense, it will generate this expense image. It will read this expense image. So, and then it will generate the expense image. Similar to education, education image, and similar to line chart, it will be line chart image. It's an all SVG file. It's all SVG file. That's why we don't see anything over there. So if these are all the SVGs that we have over here. You see, if it's bar chart, and you can just click, drag it, and then place it onto a new thing, it will generate a bar chart. You see, this image is being utilized over here and shown as something like this, and which is being the image which is also being imported in the custom card. You see, the bar chart SVG, right? And this SVG is being imported, and then it is being utilized for displaying the type of chart when it is bar. Okay, so this is one. So now, based on the actions or based on the type, it kind of changes the layout accordingly. So you see, add new, a report, based on if it's a type of report, it will be report. Else it is chart as of now. And you can also utilize and what to say, develop this component to kind of add more and more things. Like we also have one more dashboard. So we can also create multiple dashboards instead of having singular dashboard. Right now we have singular dashboards. We can also have multiple dashboards with the same kind of setup. Okay. So this is how the custom card component works and how all these things are being rendered. Okay. All these things are being rendered. And when you take the API interaction, how the cards are being fetched from the API, I mean the backend application, the Python application, that is done with the help of Redux and Axios. Okay, Axios. So what happens is like we have written a typical pattern where it says APIs. This is where we interact with charts and reports, everything. Okay, this initial thing is for reports and this is for charts. All the endpoints we have written here. And there is something called dashboard instance. This is what gives us the Axios configuration. Okay, so Axios should also be configured in a set of ways. Basically, if you guys know JavaScript, there is something called fetch in JavaScript, fetch API, which is used to interact with backend and front end. I mean, which is used to interact with any other REST API server, basically. So it kind of tries to fetch a set of data. It can either be HTML data, it can either be a JSON data or anything. So it kind of tries to fetch it out. Okay. So in order to, we have to configure it out, basically. Okay. So how we are configuring it in base URL? We are setting the base URL from process.env. In env means it is from the system environment variable. Okay, base URL. And where it is fed from? It's fed from something called .env. So now we have set it to HTTP localhost 8000. Okay, 8000. So now localhost 8000 is where we are backend services running on. So that is what we have set it to, localhost 8000. And on top of it, it will create an instance, and the timeout specifies if the server is not running, basically, and then the backend is not running, it will wait for 20 seconds for it to respond. If not, it will cancel it, and then there will be no response, basically. So that's how it happens. And there is something called interceptor contract in Axios that is also very, very useful. When you do a large scale development, you have to intercept your response, because right now, whatever we do, right? I mean, if you okay, for example, you take expenses, and these charts are there, which is actually depend on the reports called a income expense report. If you try to delete this, these charts will get affected, right? So basically, these all charts has to be deleted, and then only this report can be deleted, right? If you try to delete this, I put a check where it says delete all the associated charts, right? Right now, I'm doing this with Redux way, okay, Redux way, but it can also be done with Axios, where right now I have done it something like this. But when you go to a large scale application, based on your responses, you may have to display errors, or you may have to display success messages, on each of the addition. If it's a success, you need to pop the proper messages or something like that. You should go for Axios interception concept, where you can actually intercept the request or intercept the response. So both you can do, and then you can intercept your request, API request, basically. So that is about Axios, to give you guys gist of it. And then, so now Axios has been configured and the APIs are returned. So this every individual things is going to return a particular data that the application is going to utilize. So now these will be utilized with the state. I mean, when I say state, it's the Redux state management. So now Redux state management is differentiated into three types. One is actions, one is reducers, one is store. The store is simple store configuration where we just import all the reducers and then create a store out of it. Okay, store out of it. The Redux itself will be kind of structured in this way. Like this is the Redux thunk way of dealing with Redux. But there is also one more thing called sagas. So these are all middleware used by Redux. Okay, used by Redux. So this actions is what which actually talks with what talks with the backend. This action is what which talks with the backend, and it has several types of things like action types. Action types is where we define everything for the authentication, for the notification, for the user, for the report, for the charts, for the dashboard. You see, you take a set of things, right? User has some error, things like that. So and user added success. So if an user is added success, then this particular variable will be utilized by the Redux store, and it will appropriately throw you a message saying like this is done or that is done. So that is how it's done. Okay, and then this is for the charts. So loading the charts, when you refresh your screen in terms of charts, right? This tries to load all the chart, right? So that time load chart Redux action will be executed and loading the chart will be done. Something like this, deleting the chart and set selected chart. All these things are being utilized in some or the other way. So that is what the action types. When you create an action, you have to create an action type. So basically, Redux is something the user clicks on something and it goes and touches the actions. Okay, and this action will inform the reducer basically when you try to basically, let's say this thing, right? I mean, when you create a chart, basically when you there was something called generate chart, right? When you click on the generate chart, it takes all the details that we have entered as well as the type of the chart, and then it comes down here and then it tries to dispatch a loader. Loader is what loads everything up. Loader, and then it tries to. We are doing some kind of a manipulation over here, and then we are trying to dispatch. You see this? See this? Dispatch load charts. So what we are doing? We are adding the chart. Once that add of chart is done, either we are adding line chart, either we are adding pie chart, either we are adding bar chart. Once that adding is done, we are getting the response back, which kind of gives us either message or the charts back to us. So now we are either manipulating the things with message, or I mean manipulating the UI, means the user interface with this thing with message and the charts that we have. So basically this chart, load chart, will taking all the charts, and then the Redux store will get modified basically. Okay, so this is the flow for actions. And there is something called reducers. So reducers is what actually modifies the state for us. Reducer is what actually modifies the state for us. For example, if you take the charts, it takes the load charts and then it tries to modify something called chart. You see charts, and then it sets it. And then it sets the loading. Its loading is equal to false. So because when somebody hits the API, it means we are trying to reach something which is uncertain. And then we are showing the loader to the user, saying that we are trying to load something. And then once it's done, we are just setting the loader is equal to false so that the loader doesn't appear, and says that either it's been succeeded, the uncertainty is either resolved or rejected. So that we do. Okay. And this is how the state is being will be modified. So to show you guys, you can just go ahead and then inspect, and then you should be fine. I mean, if you guys install the Redux store, you'll be able to find something called Redux in your store. I mean, Redux in your browser. So when I reload the page, you guys see the load reports has gone on, the load charts have gone on, and then you see the data that is being loaded onto the Redux store. So there has been 2 charts that have been loaded, and there should be 3 charts that has been loaded. You see 3 charts, expenses on these things. So these are done via this. And if you jump onto this, the charts data will be empty because we have nothing to load. And if you jump onto this, there will be enough chart data. You see, chart data. So like this, it is being structured in such a way that we modify a central store, and this particular central store is the one which actually distributes the data to either dashboard, either charts, either reports. This central data is the one which distributes the value to different pages of the application. So that way, we don't have to create individual mechanism for dashboard, an individual state mechanism for charts, an individual state mechanism for reports. Basically, I mean, state mechanism in the sense individual memory for each of those things. Instead, we can follow this type of a way, where Redux way, and then use a central store for the entire application and use it across, so that we have a unified data store for us. So that's how it's taken. Okay, so that is one. And yeah, so this is how it's been instructing. Okay, so that is how the state kind of changes out, and this is the structure for any Redux store, but the structure might be different a bit. I mean, um, what to say, the folder structure may get different, but this is the structure it flows. Basically, you click something, you click something basically, I mean, you click done or something, right? You click something, and then it kind of tries to load it out. That's how it happens. You click on done without entering any data. So basically, it tries to load the stuffs without any data, and it says something went wrong, right? Something went wrong. So that's how the entire flow kind of put together works in Redux. Okay. So that is for Redux. And now let's come to component structure, right? So if you take the components, we have something called charts. So that is where we have custom bar chart, custom line chart, custom pie chart. Okay, custom line chart, custom bar chart, custom pie chart. And now let's go to recharts. I'll show you guys something on the recharts. Okay, in terms of recharts, if you see this particular line chart, maybe we'll take the simple line chart. If you see these 2 line charts, we are passing data, name, UV, PV, and everything. And then these data has been directly passed on to line chart. Okay. And this is what is the data that we are going to fetch. You see, this is what is the data that we are going to fetch from our API. If you go to our application and then go to charts, and then just say, go to network, and then just say view this data, keep an eye on this data, this chart data. See how it is: type expense, type expense, type expense, right? And let's take the bar chart, okay, which since it is closely related to our current, yeah. You see, year expense income, year expense income, and this is very similar to what we saw over here, right? Name, UVPV, amount, UVPM. So this is being fitted into the data. So this is being fitted into the data. So something very similar we do over in the custom chart. You see, custom bar chart or something. So something very similar. We do get the data, and then we do the same kind of thing as the recharge asks us to, and then we just pass on the data that we do. Here, I'm just doing some kind of manipulation as required for this particular application, and then I'm just passing that particular data on to it. So that's it. And if you need the grids, you can have the grids. If you need the legends or tooltip, you can have it. So basically, with this kind of an approach, we can customize it to a lot much. So instead of only using some simple line chart and then taking whatever the recharge is doing, instead of following that, if you have something which is trying to utilize what recharge is to offer, then it becomes more feasible for us to add more and more options. So what I mean in that way is like, so right now we had this, right now we have this particular expense over here. Maybe we also have this icons over here. Right now we only have stacking or bar kind of a setup. We can also have something like gradient. We can also have something like custom tooltip setup, where they can actually enter what they need to show in the tooltip. Something like that we can show, and then how the x-axis have to be rendered and everything. So a lot more we can customize. So basically, we give the control to the user on how to show the graph. So this is a simple example on how we did it. We can also hide the x-axis. We can also take out the legend. We can also take out the tooltip. So that is how we can do it. So we can kind of take it forward and make it a bit more customizable. So that is how the component architecture helps us in terms of the app. Okay. So we have charts, and similarly we have one thing for snack bar message in the sense, whenever something is going wrong, right, we do get a message, right, something went wrong. So this is called a snack bar. So this is again utilized by from material UI. If you say snack bar, and if you go to material UI and search for snack bar, open a simple snack bar, you see this is a snack bar by default, but we have customized it to something like what we saw in our application, right? So what we saw in our application. So this level of customization also we can do when we convert everything into component-based architecture. And again, like React is it's a simple library which tries to create the interface very quickly, and it is also provided that when you have to develop an application very quickly, you have to go for the built-in libraries that are available for us as open source. We just have to make sure that the source of that particular library is legit, like what we did for recharge or what we did for material UI or recharge. So we just need to make sure that these sources are legit, so that we don't go into security issues, right? So using a package which you doesn't know can lead into security issues, definitely. Yeah. So these things, and we have also added the stepper for the chart stepper. So you see these things, right? I mean, the autocomplete for choose a data, right? Choose a data, align data. So this is for chart stepper. Wait just a second. Yeah. So you have this choose a report for the chart, and this is the autocomplete component utilized from material UI. So you see the same label when you go and select, I need to add a chart. You go to chart. If you go to add a label, you see this, right? You see the same thing. Choose a report for the chart, and you see this thing. Choose a report for the chart. So this is the component which is being utilized for generating this thing. So basically, it's not a single file. It's all kind of cut down or separated into different set of files, and then we are replacing it here and there as required for the application. So that is how it is done, and it is active 0. I mean, if it's 1, and it means 0. And if we go to select a chart and then go to next, we see this kind of a setup, and it's 1. I mean, this setup, and in step 1, this charts will be rendered. You see, charts.map, which is I'm iterating each of the charts, and then I'm just showing the mini card. So basically, we have this custom card, which kind of allows us to delete or anything, do kind of those kind of stuff. But when it comes to mini card, it is just an entity which tries to highlight a card if it is selected. Highlight a card if it is selected, right? So that time I have just created a mini component, which is of like 40, 50 lines of code, where it accepts type of the chart, name for the chart, highlight if it's on to be highlighted, if it's clicked, highlight. If highlights is true, then the color will get changed. And then chart ID, handle select. I mean, when we click on it, that's how this handle select will be executed. It's a function that will get executed. So this is how I have created this particular mini chart card kind of a component. So that is used across, right? So here also it is being used. And then here, if you see, and then if you click on add, so here also it is used. Here you can select multiple things. So you need to handle the codes accordingly. So that is something which is important when you write a component-based structure into your React application. So that is one thing. And then we have the start stepper in the custom card and then the list items that we already saw. Yeah. So to put together, so React kind of works with the single HTML page with multiple way of generating, I mean, differentiating the DOM, basically, multiple way of changing the DOM, basically. So you see, if I go to this thing, you see, I'm right now in this. If I go to this particular element, the page doesn't change, only there is a div which gets kind of changed. If I go to this div, you see this is changed. If I go to this div, this is kind of changed. So basically, this is the beauty of React, where you don't necessarily refresh the entire page. You just do whatever that is necessary. You just do whatever that is necessary. So that is the very good thing of React. Okay. So yeah. And this is the HTML file which gets rendered every time. And this is the div ID root, which gets modified with a lot of contents, basically. Okay. Okay. Okay, guys, I think I'm done with whatever that I had to say. Any questions for me, guys? Whoever raised hands, like somebody raised their hands as well. You can go for the questions now. Okay. I think then we are done, Cherisha. Yeah.
Actually, sir, there's a question in my chat box.
Okay.
Chirag has asked, when we create new chart or data set, what is happening in our Mongo database?
Yeah. So when we create, yeah. So let me do that, right? So let me try to doing that, right? Okay. So now let's have a look at our Mongo database. Okay. So we do have only three charts. One is of pie, one is of bar, and one is of line. Okay. And all those three charts are listed on here. Expenses on, expenses income, expenses over here. Okay. Right. So when I try to add new chart, okay, let's say finance, and then let's say a pie chart. Let's have it inspected. Okay. So that when you have it inspected, let's go to network, and then I'm just going to give it a name. So now let's just open the file, right? So that we can create a separate. So across segments, I'm just going to see how much units got sold. Okay, across segments. So what we are going to do, what we have to do, I'm just going to say like units sold across segments, units sold across segments. And then I'm just going to say the same thing, pie chart depiction of pie chart depiction of units sold across segments. Okay, so now we have to choose what data, units sold. Okay, so now we are going to show the units sold data. So that's why we chose units sold, and then we are going to choose the legend to be segment, and then we are choosing the legend to be segment. So now we can just say like sum or average, anything would do good. So we'll just say sum because we are just going to sum all the units sold instead of averaging it up. Okay, so that is one. That is one. Okay, that is one. Yeah. When I say generate chart, so it is giving a call. You see, it is giving a call to what? Slash dot slash py. So what it will do, as I said last time, it will go ahead and then it will try to go to charts, and then it will try to go to slash, what was the route? Chart slash py. Right? So it will try to go to slash charts slash py. So it will try to create a new chart. So where it will go to this particular function, where it will try to get the report data, which we already have, and then it will try to get the collection name of it, basically, and then it will try to collect collection name of it, and then basically it will go in here, and then it will select the particular report that we have selected, and then it will try to fetch the collection name field, and then it will append that particular collection name into the right object, and then it will insert an entity into the chart. You see pie chart, units sold across segments, and the collection name is equal to finance. So now if we do view on top of this particular chart, right? If we do view, what it will do, it will take the entire chart data, units sold, collection name, and everything, and it gives the pie dot data, pie slash data. So now it says pie slash data. So now it will come back again onto the same controller. Now it will go to pie slash data. Now how this pie slash data works? It goes and gets creates a query to just get whatever the data that we need. What data we need? Units sold, and then the legends. Legend data is the segment, right? So it just tries to show by is the legend, and then data field is the unit sold. So both fields are being requested as one. So those are the fields will be returned to the collection, returned to the Python. So we get the data. I mean, we query the data, we get the collection and we query for it, and then we get the data frame. And then with that particular data frame, we group everything with the help of segments, which is show by segments, right? With segments, and then it will group it, and then it will give us a data something like this: segment units sold, segment units sold. So like this, and then we can view it like this. You see? Okay. So Rohan, maybe I'll share you the repo link, no problem. Yeah, and one more thing, Saravana Kumar. Yeah. So why we use MongoDB instead of going with MySQL or Postgres? Okay. So basically, they are schema'd, right? They are a very tight schema'd thing. And when you try to visualize something, and when you try to create charts out of different things like pie chart, line chart, everything. So it kind of becomes difficult to write or keep track of each of the charts data, right? And you also want to develop the application which has to be a bit more quicker than the normal MySQL data. MySQL, if it has to be like very number of huge data, it has to kind of quickly kind of throw it out to the Python, for us to use the pandas and what to say, convert into a data set, right? So that goes well with MongoDB. Also, one more thing why we use MongoDB is like MongoDB, it's very close to JSON type of data. It's very close to JSON type of data. You see, this is nothing but a JSON object as JavaScript object. If you try to edit it and validate it, it kind of says like JSON is valid. So basically, it's a JSON, which is what we at React require, right? So it is will be very quick in terms of transmitting it. The conversion of these data into JSON would be more faster when compared. So that is the answer why we used the MongoDB.